Today we're going to talk about aiming, or more specifically, my aim settings for how I'm able to beam players and consistently get eliminations by keeping my cursor on the target. The first thing that everyone should know is there is no magic setting that's going to make you have the best aim possible. There are a lot of videos out there that will claim that they have the best settings and you will be the best player ever if you use those, and in some cases those will work for you, but my belief in what I'm going to talk through in today's video is that the best way for you to figure out your aim settings is for you to understand what the aim settings are doing. The most optimal setup for you to perform at your best is what's going to feel right and natural for you. So today's video is going to try and help you understand what the settings are doing and how they adjust different mechanics within the game. Since I play on console, these settings will be tailored specifically for players that use the controller. First, we can just take a look at what my aim settings are currently in case you do just want to copy them and try it out for yourself, but I'll also explain what each of these settings are doing and why I have them set the way I do. First, we'll start with look sensitivity, horizontal and vertical. These are the most basic and easy to understand, and it's simply how quickly you will look left to right, up and down, without zooming in. Higher values will make it quicker for you to look left to right, up and down. Lower values will make it slower for you to look left and right, up and down. Moving on to zoom sensitivity multiplier. This is the same thing as the look sensitivity, except for it only applies to when you're zooming in. Higher values make it quicker for you to move left to right, up and down. Lower values make it slower for you to look left to right, up and down. Moving on to scoped zoom sensitivity multiplier. This only applies to the sniper in the game as far as I can tell. No other weapons I tried were affected by this, so as far as I know, this only affects the sniper, and is the same thing as the first settings we talked about. Higher values make it quicker to look left to right, up and down. Lower values make it slower to look left to right, up and down. This next setting, focal length sensitivity scaling, attempts to moderate your sensitivity across different fields of view. In my opinion, anytime that you have something that's trying to do extra management of your aim settings, it's not worth having it on until you understand the baseline mechanics of how your aim is working. So I have this disabled, and that's just my personal preference. Horizontal look boost, vertical look boost, and the look boost ramp up time is specifically setting a sensitivity for how quickly you will move left to right, up and down when your control stick is pushed all the way to the edge. In this case, the look boost ramp up time determines how long your control stick has to be on the edge before you start to get that additional sensitivity, and this will actually override your default sensitivity and scale it to what you have set here in the boost. The reason I have my horizontal boost set to the maximum at 500 is specifically for mesh shield. It allows me to turn a lot quicker when I'm taking damage from behind or another direction while I still have my mesh shield out. The next few settings are just like the ones we talked about. These settings are the zoom horizontal look boost, the zoom vertical look boost, and the zoom look boost ramp up time. These function just like the ones I talked about for horizontal and vertical look boost, and these settings will affect the zoom for every weapon in the game, so this will be a one-stop shop for modifying your zoom sensitivity if you really need to. These next two settings are some of the more critical ones for controller players, and that's the aiming inner dead zone and the movement inner dead zone. Dead zone on your controller is essentially how far to the edge your control stick needs to be pressed before the game is going to respond to your input. These can be really helpful if you're kind of a twitchy player and you have a lot of jerky movements. Sometimes adding a dead zone can help soften that. But if you're a proficient player and you've been playing FPS games for a really long time, in my experience, you want to turn these off or as close to being off as possible, as they will actually affect your ability to be as precise as you can be with the experience that you have playing these types of games. I have my aiming inner dead zone set to 2. That's just to give me a slight bit of buffer for those twitchy movements like I was talking about earlier. That's just my own personal preference. Moving on to the movement inner dead zone, we're going to get a little bit into conspiracy theory land here, but stick with me as I explain why. The movement inner dead zone might be even more important than the aiming inner dead zone because of how the game functions. What you're going to see is that I'm putting on the dispersion reticule, which I don't normally play with, but in this case it's going to help with explaining why this is important. As you can see, as I'm shooting my weapon here, the dispersion reticule is getting bigger and growing outwards. This is telling me that my bullet spread is going to match that circle, that red circle, and will continue to get less accurate as I continue to fire my weapon. And this same mechanic is applied to when your player is moving as well. So as you're walking and or running, your accuracy is going to be reduced, making your dispersion reticle or your dispersion area much wider. And this is why I believe the movement inner dead zone is so important. As you're seeing in this clip right now, my reticle is slowly slipping to the right. And this is because I have my movement inner dead zone to 0. And at 0 in this game, the character models will slip just a little bit as they're supposed to be standing still. And even that small amount of movement can affect accuracy over a long period of time. So I have my movement inner dead zone set to 7. This is just the value I found that seems to keep the character locked in place the best. And anecdotally for me, when I turned on my movement inner dead zone, I saw my accuracy increase kind of insane. And so now I'm kind of a big believer in having this turned on because of that character model slippage I was just talking about. For these last settings, invert vertical look input just changes your up and your down. Look response curve, you have 3 different options between linear, exponential, and sinusoidal. This is just how the game calculates the response time from when you move your stick from the center to the edge. I'll be honest, I don't really understand this a whole lot. I default to linear because it feels the most natural to me, but I'd recommend you experiment with each of these and figure out which one feels right to you. Look acceleration is another one that I really don't understand what it's doing. I have it set to 0% because of that. And in my experience, having set all of the previous settings the way that you like it, you don't really need to have this turned on to achieve anything else than you haven't already achieved. The last couple of settings you'll probably want to be aware of is this reload and pickup behavior. You can either prioritize pickup or prioritize reload, and that is because you will share a button input to do both of those actions. Right now in the game, there is a bug with the prioritize reload. Normally that's what I have it set to, but right now I'm on prioritize pickup because of that bug. If you have prioritize reload on, please be aware. If you try and press the reload button while you have an object that you could otherwise pick up within your field of view, it will cause your reload to fail and force you to have to do a full reload again. So be aware of that if you're using that as your option. Last and finally not least are the aim assist settings. If you're playing on controller, playing on console, I recommend leaving all of these on, but I'll run over what each of these is doing so you're just aware of what's going on and how the game is helping you. Aim assist is the game's ability to help move your cursor closer to enemy targets as they cross your path, and it can be very helpful when playing on controller to be precise. There are multiple different options that are within the aim assist bucket. Sensitivity reduction will just slow your cursor down as you get closer to an enemy to try and help you be precise on that target. Target tracking will actually move your cursor from left to right or right to left as that enemy player crosses your path to try and help nudge you in the right direction for your aim. Zoom snapping will actually pull your aim towards the target if you were to ADS in close but not actually on them. And again, all of these settings are specific to helping out controller players be a little bit more precise, given the control stick doesn't allow you to be that precise like you would on a mouse and keyboard. And that's it for me today, y'all. This ended up being a much longer video, but I hope it's helpful for those of you looking to learn a little bit more about the aim settings in this game. Just remember that with everything, practice makes perfect, and it takes time to really figure out what works best for you. I didn't start out by being able to hit my targets super well. In fact, I was pretty much a potato at the very beginning of this game, but over time, as I continued to learn the weapons and recoil and adjust my settings accordingly, it really helped me dial it in for me to be as good as I am today. Thanks so much for watching, y'all.